From the NewsChannel 5 Network and Out and About Nashville, this is Out and About Today. Sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Hello, I'm Chuck Long, and welcome to a special edition of Out and About Today. It's our 15th season kickoff, so we're extra excited. We're going to devote the entire show to one topic, and it's something that continues to make more and more headlines, and that's faith in the LGBTQ community. As many in our community continue to receive mixed messages and often turned away from the faith community, we're proud to welcome 3 people in the faith community who are for complete inclusivity. We'll be talking with Reverend Sam McGlothlin from Belle, Meade United Methodist Church, Stephen Adair from Glendale United Methodist Church, and up first, Reverend David Perez, pastor of a relatively new church, Spero Day, a great church. Great to have you, David.
It's good to be here, Chuck. I appreciate it.
I've really been looking forward to this. So, I want to start off, Spero Day. First off, it's not, I think the spelling is different than what people will think. So, basically, Spero Day, tell me what that means.
Well, yeah, it sounds like the English word sparrow and day, but they're 2 Latin words, and sparrow means hope or trust, and day is the Latin word, one of the Latin words for God.
Yeah, so terrific church. And one thing, just you're relatively new, about a year. Kind of tell me, what prompted you guys to start Spero Day?
Well, I have a long church background, and it's mostly in the conservative Protestant or evangelical church. So I was part of the whole church growth movement, kind of what has become the popular Christianity of the day. And then in about 2010, none of it was working for me anymore. So I kind of went through my own major faith shift while I was still pastoring an evangelical church. But what was true is my faith was very much alive. My connection to the divine and to God was very much alive, but this box I had been in no longer fit. So through a series of long circumstances, which I won't explain here, it obviously led me and part of the folks from my congregation to launch Spero Day.
And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how, as we talked at the top of the show, how the LGBTQ community fits into Spero Day. But I think your story reflects a lot of what a lot of people in the gay community, the queer community, look for. They've been in that box. They've not been accepted. Things are not working.
Right.
So you go to a place like Spero Day, and it's suddenly like, oh wow, this is like a respite. I was noticing too, I love some of the questions that you guys ask even on your website. What if you didn't have to leave the church to rethink your faith? It's a new church rethinking faith. What if the church you love also loved the people you love? This is like part of your mission.
Yeah, and I think it's true for all people. It certainly could be straight people, gay people, but what is happening, there's something going on in Christianity, and at least in the American version of it, and it's not fitting for a lot of people. But because sometimes there's a dualistic approach, one or the other, people still have a strong spiritual heart, but the church is not a place for them to fit anymore. So they leave. But there's a lot of us that we don't want to leave our Christian faith or our spiritual faith. So Spero Day is a church that really has a more open and flexible Christian theology, and we just think Christian theology ought to continue to evolve and change, and what evolves it is love, empathy. So we meet people, we start to feel what they feel, and we're drawn to them, and we want to include. And then we just think wisdom is what also evolves the faith. There's just things that make sense in the 21st century that we didn't see it that way 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. But people continue to evolve, and so we change because things now look differently.
Well, and I think if somebody from the LGBTQ community came to Spero Day, one of the things, if they go to any church, and I know this is true for me growing up, you know, eventually you hear so many things where people are using the Bible as a weapon.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know, well, and some churches will say, well, oh, no, you were definitely welcome here. But then after a while, you realize, well, maybe welcome is a kind of a double-edged sword, because you're welcome, but you can't serve in a capacity of leadership or something like that. But if someone from the queer community comes to Spero Day, what do they find?
Full inclusion. And when we say full inclusion, we mean full inclusion. So yes, there are a lot of churches that say everybody's welcome, everybody's welcome. And of course they are. They get to walk in the doors. But then there is another either doctrine or dogma or agenda of we need to change you into how we view the world. That doesn't happen at Spero Day. So we are obviously a Christian church, but it just flexes and opens up. And I think, Chuck, when the Bible gets used as a weapon, really the cornerstone of that is biblical literalism, or what we call biblicism. So when somebody holds to the Bible that it is literal, it just dropped from heaven and it can't change, I'm not saying everybody that holds that view weaponizes it. I'm not saying that at all. But when it does get weaponized, many times it comes from that point of view. And we take the scriptures very seriously at Spero Day. They're very meaningful to us, but they're so meaningful to us that we can't take them literally. We think they need to evolve and change, and we think even scripture shows that they evolve and change. So if anyone from the gay community comes to Spero Day, and we certainly have folks attending, I think they're going to be welcome and accepted and really normalized. They just blend in to the community and can be involved and volunteer and serve in leadership.
And I can certainly attest to that, because full disclosure, I started going to Spero Day the day that you guys opened the doors, and have just loved it ever since. So, all right, we're going to talk a lot more. The whole show we're devoting to this. Right now, we're going to take a short break, but when we return, Reverend Sam McGlothlin and Stephen Adair join us as we continue this special edition of Out and About Today, Faith in the LGBTQ community. Come on back with us.